Hi,
Hi,
this is Kim.
this is Andy,
Yep, and we're going to read to you from the Urantia book. But first, 365 Days of Walking the Red Road by Terry Jean.
and today we're going to hear from Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin? I didn't know he was an Indian.
Well, he said in 1783, "Savages we call them because their manners differ from ours, which we think the perfection of civility. They think the same of theirs. Perhaps if we could examine the manners of different nations with impartiality, we should find no people so rude as to be without any rules of politeness, nor, nor any so polite as to not have some remains of rudeness.
Mmm.
The politeness of these savages in conversation is indeed carried to excess, since it does not permit them to contradict or deny the truth of what is asserted in their presence. By this means they indeed avoid disputes, but then it becomes difficult to know their minds or what impression you have upon them. The, the missionaries who have attempted to convert them to Christianity all complain of this as one of the great difficulties of their mission. The Indians bear with patience the truths of the gospel explained to them, and give their usual tokens of assent and approbation. You would think they were convinced. No such matter. It is mere civility." Wow. So they're
Interesting.
very polite. They don't contradict in your presence what.
They don't. They don't argue just for
No.
the sake of competition.
Right. They'll just acknowledge what you said.
They said, "Okay, I hear you,"
Yes, and that's all.
and that's all. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, okay.
Next we have
The Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Translation by Ralph Allendale. Photographs here.
it's, trees by a lake.
Trees by a lake. Beautiful, beautiful. Look at the reflection. Yeah. You know what would be really cool to do is like if you had a picture like that and then you hang it like upside down. So it looks like the reflection was the trees
Right.
and yeah.
Right.
That'd be cool.
Mhm.
That'd be like a psycho thing.
Comparing coercive power and the empowerment of the great integrity. When people no longer fear the power of governments, a far greater empowerment appears, the great integrity,
Right.
which never needs to enforce itself. Then we will never again be driven from our homes or be compelled to labor for the benefit of others. We will all work naturally to fulfill ourselves and to meet our community needs. In the great integrity, we will all love ourselves and all others, not as compensations for ego deprivations and defilements, but as natural expressions of our humanity.
Right. Natural expressions of our humanity. Turn page.
I'm hearing
That's
more and more about the majority of people having to work for the benefit of others.
right. See, we think that that's yep. No, that's true. Well, but if people are in need, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? We have, but no, it's all being controlled and orchestrated so that a few people can get by
Without having to work.
without having to do anything. And this is how power structures have been created since ancient times, you know. It's all been yeah. Well, since people had to start pooling resources to keep the enemy out or whatever, who's ever been in control of those resources has been, you know, benefiting from that.
It takes a lot of work to maintain excess amounts of resources.
Aha, aha, aha. Okay.
Okay, we're in the Urantia book, paper 42.
Section 5, wave energy manifestations. I'll read
Yeah.
it like here,
Mhm.
and then you go. Okay?
All right.
All right. Okay. In the super universe of Orvanton, there are 100 octaves
Wow.
of wave energy.
Hmm.
Right now, who thinks in these terms?
I
Like that's a
know.
musical term,
Right.
right?
Right. Hmm.
Okay. So, see, this is how this, I know this wasn't written by a person because you can't get out that's and it does that all the time, like a lot in here is connecting to different
Hmm.
sources of knowledge here.
Hmm.
100 octaves of wave energy. Of these 100 groups of energy manifestations, 64 are wholly or partially recognized
Mm.
on Urantia. The sun's rays constitute 4 octaves in the superuniverse scale. Who
Mm.
knew, right?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
The visible rays, embracing a single octave, number 46 in this series. So,
Mm.
okay. So there's 164 are recognized on Urantia, but the visible rays are a single octave out of that 64, and there are 46 different kinds in this series of visible rays.
Hmm.
The ultraviolet group comes next, while 10 octaves up are the X rays,
Mm.
followed by the gamma rays of radium. 32 octaves above the visible light of the sun are the outer space energy rays, so frequently commingled with their associated highly energized minute particles of matter.
Mm.
Next, downward from visible sunlight appear the infrared rays, and 30 octaves below are the radio transmission group. So we're thinking this is groups of 8. And why is that? Oh no. I'm thinking of the periodic table. The periodic table, has the first 2 outer electrons in the first 2 elements, right?
Hmm.
Hydrogen, helium. And then there's 6. No, there's 8. Yeah, there's 8 electrons in a shell, but then it gets more complicated as you go on it because there's the different shell levels.
Hmm.
There's the D2 and the different, yeah, there's the Ds, there's the different series of, I don't know. But anyway, that's very interesting.
Hmm.
Okay. Wave-like energy manifestations from the standpoint of 20th century Urantia scientific enlightenment, 20th century, yep, may be classified into the following groups. Okay, so from the 20th century Urantia standpoint,
Hmm.
right. 1, infra-ultimatonic rays.
Mm.
The borderland revolutions of ultimatons as they begin to assume definite form. This is the first stage of emergent energy in which wave-like phenomena can be deleted and measured.
Detected.
Detected. Right, thank you. Detected and measured. 2, the ultimatonic rays. The assembly of energy into the minute spheres of the ultimatons occasions vibrations in the content of space, which are discernible and measurable. And long before physicists ever discover the ultimaton, they will undoubtedly detect the phenomena of these rays as they shower in upon Urantia. These short and powerful rays represent the initial activity of the ultimatons as they are slowed down to that point where they veer towards the electronic organization of matter. As the ultimatons aggregate into electrons, condensation occurs with the consequent storage of energy.
Hmm.
Okay?
3. The short space rays. These are the shortest of all purely electronic vibrations and represent the pre-atomic stage of this form of matter. These rays require extraordinarily high or low temperatures for their production. There are 2 sorts of these space rays,
Mm-hmm.
one attendant upon the birth of atoms and the other indicative of atomic disruption. They emanate in the largest quantities from the dense plane of the superuniverse, the Milky Way, which is also the densest plane of our outer universes. They emanate in the largest quantities from the dense plane of the superuniverse. The Milky Way.
Hmm.
The Milky Way is the superuniverse.
I think the Milky Way is kind of like the direction where the super universe lies toward the highest density of stars. Remember, the Milky Way at this point wasn't designated the name of our galaxy when this was written.
Mhm.
It was just all it meant was the band that goes across the sky where the thickest, you know,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that's all it's really taken to mean. So we know there's things beyond the Milky Way. So I don't think the Milky Way is a super universe. I've considered whether the Milky Way might be equivalent to like Nebadon,
Mhm. Mhm.
maybe, but even that isn't sure because we can see other galaxies
Right. And there's
outside of,
more than seven of
yeah,
them. Mhm.
there's, yeah. Well, that would be, but if it's just Nebadon, there'd be like 100 other ones if the Milky Way was Nebadon.
Mm. Mhm.
Okay, but it might not be that either. It's hard to say because we're located on the edge of all these creations, though. It does say that we can see, you know, the other super universes because we're kind of on the edge of ours.
Okay.
So it's really weird. I don't know. It's a mystery. I have to let it go. I wonder about it a lot, but um, okay, where are you at then?
The electronic stage. This stage of energy is the basis of all materialization in the seven superuniverses. When electrons pass from higher to lower energy levels of orbital revolution, quant- quanta are always given off. Orbital shifting of electrons results in the ejection or the absorption of very definite and uniform measurable particles of light energy, while the individual electron always gives up a particle of light energy when subjected to a collision.
Hmm.
Wave-like energy manifestations also attend upon the performances of the positive bodies and other members of the electronic stage.
Okay, and then I'll go up to
Okay.
here. Should I go? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So 5 gamma rays. Those emanations which characterize the spontaneous dissociation of atomic matter. Okay. See, I don't know. Does science know where gamma rays come from? They just know. They just see them. Do they know where did they come from? That probably they do. The best illustration of this form of electronic activity is the phenomena associated with radium disintegration. Okay, sure. Yeah. 6, the X-ray group. The next step in the slowing down of the electron yields the various forms of solar X-rays together with artificially generated X-rays. They probably didn't know this stuff about gamma rays
Mhm.
because this was only like,
Mhm.
20 or 30 years after what Madame Curie discovered the X-ray in the 1890s, right?
Right.
I don't know, maybe I don't know, but I always thought Bruce Banner discovered the gamma rays, but right anyway, okay, the electronics with artificially generated X-rays, various forms of solar X-rays together with artificially generated X-rays. The electronic charge creates an electric field. Movement gives rise to an electric current. The current produces a magnetic field. Okay. When an electron is suddenly stopped, the resultant electromagnetic commotion produces the X-ray. The X-ray is that disturbance. So when an electron stops,
Hmm.
produces something, stops it, and then that makes X-ray. The solar X-rays are identical with those which are mechanically generated for exploring the interior of the human body, except that they are a trifle longer. 7. The ultraviolet or chemical rays of sunlight and the various mechanical productions. 8. The white light, the whole visible light of the suns. 9. Infrared rays, the slowing down of electronic activity still nearer the stage of appreciable heat. Hertzian. Hertzian. Oh, Hertz. Like
Hertzian.
Hertzian waves. Those energies utilized on Urantia for broadcasting. Okay.
Mhm.
So this was
Radio
really
waves.
at the time radio waves. So this at the time, remember, this was really just cutting edge stuff. Nobody knew this stuff
Mhm.
except like the scientists that were in the know.
Mhm.
Okay, but you know what? These angels, they have a duty to like, it's like no spoilers, right? To not
Yeah.
give us like spoilers. So we have to have the experience of discovering these things ourselves. So they don't want to just deprive us of that to any,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's important that they waited until those discoveries were happening
Mhm.
to kind of like try to help us with that. Okay. Of all these 10 phases of wave-like energy activity, the human eye can react to just one octave, the whole light of ordinary sunlight, right? The white light, the whole
Mhm.
visible light of the sun. Okay. Okay, Andy will finish it then.
The so-called ether is merely a collective name to designate a group of force and energy activities occurring in space.
Okay, so remember the ether. That was this whole idea, like back in the 1900s. They had this idea of there was this ether in space that could conduct. It must be like what do waves move through? Because you can't move through space. Well, there must be something there, so there must be the ether. They had that idea, but that's not really a good idea.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so they're talking about what the ether.
The so-called ether is merely a collective name to designate a group of force and energy activities occurring in space. Ultimatons, electrons, and other mass aggregations of energy are uniform particles of matter, and in their transit through space they really proceed in direct lines. Light and all other forms of recognizable energy manifestations consist of a succession of definite energy particles which proceed in direct lines except as modified by gravity and other intervening forces. But these processes of energy particles,
These procession.
these processions of energy particles appear as wave phenomena when subjected to certain observations is due to the resistance of the undifferentiated force blanket of all space, the hypothetical ether, and to the intergravity tension of the associated aggregations of matter. The spacing of the particle intervals of matter, together with the initial velocity of the energy beams, establishes the undulatory appearance of many forms of energy matter.
Okay, right. So talking about waves, why we see waves. Yeah.
Mhm. The excitation of the content of space produces a wave-like reaction to the passage of rapidly moving particles of matter, just as the passage of a ship through water initiates waves of varying amplitude and interval.
Mm.
Primordial force behavior does not give rise to phenomena which are in many ways analogous to your postulated ether. Space is not empty. The spheres of all space whirl and plunge on through a vast ocean of outspread force energy. Neither is the space content of an atom empty.
Wow. Right.
Nevertheless, there is no ether, and the very absence of this hypothetical ether enables the inhabited planet to escape falling into the sun, and the encircling electron to resist falling into the nucleus. Ether.
So the absence of the ether, that if we had ether, then the planet would fall into the sun, because it would be like more like drawing stuff into the sun. But even though we can't really think of space as empty, it says space is not empty.
No, it's a vast energy field.
It's a field.
Mhm. Mhm. Wave energy manifestations.
Okay.
Okay.
We good?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Wow,
right.
science. It's been sciencey lately. That's fun,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Like science. Science is good. Okay.
Okay.
Next time we'll learn about some more other stuff. Okay. All right. I'll see you later. Have a good
Okay.
day.
Bye now.
Bye.
Have a great day.